All right, welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at some really interesting stuff. This idea of like getting life to work at your command, as this woman Vanessa Sam puts it, on her YouTube channel.
Right.
She calls herself the Psychic CEO.
That's right. Yeah.
Which definitely grabbed my attention, and we're going to be kind of taking a deep dive into her approach to manifestation and energetic frequencies and things like that.
Yeah.
But I'm ready to push back on some of it too. You know, not just take it all at face value.
Yeah. Yeah.
What really hooked me was her her take on affirmations. She says, like, just repeating affirmations can actually backfire if you're not doing it correctly.
Right. Yeah. She argues that there's a deeper level to manifestation that goes beyond just saying the words.
Okay, so let's break this down.
Okay.
Vanessa talks about awareness of being, and she uses this analogy of a door.
Right.
What exactly does she mean by that?
So she's saying that your awareness of being is like a doorway through which your manifestations come into reality. It's the connection between the energy you put out and the actual experiences that you have in your life.
So it's not enough to just say, I am rich. I have to actually feel rich.
Exactly. She gives this example of, someone who feels inferior to someone successful or attractive. And she says just repeating affirmations like, I'm successful too, or I'm beautiful too, won't work if you haven't addressed those underlying feelings of low self-worth. You have to shift your entire awareness to match the reality you want to create.
That's interesting because I've definitely tried affirmations before, and sometimes they felt empty. You know, like I was just saying words without really believing them.
Yeah.
Maybe this awareness of being is the missing piece.
Yeah, it could be.
But how do we actually cultivate that?
So she digs into that, and she introduces this concept of the conceiver and the conception.
Okay.
She says every human is inherently a conceiver, constantly creating conceptions about their reality.
So are these conceptions like our beliefs about ourselves and the world?
Yes, precisely. Yeah.
Okay.
And she says these conceptions that we have directly shape our experiences. It's almost like these conceptions are the blueprints for our lives.
Yeah, that makes me think about limiting beliefs, you know?
Yeah.
Like if I'm constantly conceiving of myself as someone who struggles financially, am I actually blocking abundance from coming into my life?
That's exactly the kind of questions that Vanessa encourages us to ask. She says we need to become aware of the conceptions we are holding on to, because those conceptions are literally shaping our reality.
Okay, so let's say I'm starting to become aware of some limiting conceptions. How do I actually start to change them?
That brings us to one of Vanessa's most powerful statements. You can only serve one master.
Wait, what does she mean by that?
She's talking about focus, like where are you directing your energy and attention? And she says whatever you focus on grows, and whatever you ignore fades away.
So if I'm constantly focusing on what I don't have, I'm actually feeding that lack.
Exactly. And on the flip side, if you start to focus on the evidence of your desires, even in small ways, you start to shift your energy and attract more of what you want.
So how do we make that shift? It sounds easy in theory, but, I imagine it's pretty challenging to actually change your focus.
Yeah.
Especially when you're dealing with, deeply ingrained beliefs.
Right. Well, she uses a really interesting analogy to illustrate this. She talks about new wine in old bottles. You can't pour fresh, vibrant wine into old, brittle bottles. They'll crack under pressure.
I see where she's going with this.
Yeah.
You're saying we have to let go of our old limiting beliefs.
Before we can really embrace new possibilities.
Exactly. And this is where Vanessa's approach starts to get really practical. She tells this really compelling story about starting her own business.
I remember reading about that.
Yeah.
She started with just $300, right?
Yes.
And now she's a multi-millionaire.
It's an incredible story of transformation.
Yeah.
She says that when she started her business, she didn't have a lot of resources. But instead of dwelling on what she lacked, she shifted her focus to the evidence of wealth she already had.
Like what?
Simple things. She had food, clothes, transportation. By acknowledging and appreciating these existing forms of abundance, she fueled her belief in her own ability to create more wealth.
So she was basically practicing gratitude.
Yeah.
for what she already had, even though it might have seemed small
Right.
compared to her big goals.
Right, exactly.
I like that. It feels very grounded and attainable.
Yeah.
That's a key part of Vanessa's teaching, finding the evidence of your desires
Right.
in your current reality,
Yeah.
no matter how small it may seem.
That's a great point. Sometimes we get so caught up in what we don't have that we forget to appreciate what we do have.
Yeah.
I think we could all benefit from that reminder.
Absolutely. And to illustrate this idea even further,
Okay.
Vanessa shares a powerful parable, the story of the widow with 3 drops of oil.
I'm not familiar with that one. Tell me more.
So the widow represents a state of lack
Okay.
or barrenness, She only has these 3 drops of oil,
Right.
which symbolize her limited resources.
Okay.
And a prophet comes to her
Okay.
and tells her to gather as many empty vessels as she can find.
Okay.
Then he tells her to go into her house, shut the door,
Right.
and pour those 3 drops of oil into the vessels,
Right.
believing that they will be filled.
So he's asking her to have faith,
Exactly.
to believe in a miracle, basically.
Exactly. And the amazing thing is that widow follows the prophet's instructions, and she's able to fill all the vessels with oil, even having some leftover.
Oh, yeah.
The story is a powerful metaphor for the power of shifting our focus and belief,
Right.
even when our resources seem incredibly limited.
Wow. That's a really compelling story.
Yeah.
So what's the takeaway for us? How can we, like the widow, turn our limited resources into abundance?
Vanessa would say it starts with changing our awareness,
Okay.
shutting out the external negativity that tells us we're not enough, and focusing on the evidence of our desires. Even if it's just a drop or 2, it's about believing in our own potential and trusting that we have the power to create the reality we desire.
This is really making me think differently about manifestation.
Yeah.
It's not just about wishful thinking. It's about a deep internal shift.
Yeah, sure.
I think that's a good place to stop for today. We've covered a lot of ground, and there's still more to explore.
Right.
But we'll pick it where we left off next time.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks for listening.
Thanks. Ready to jump back in?
Yeah, this idea of shifting our awareness, to create the reality we want is really resonating with me. But how do we go beyond just intellectually understanding this concept and actually embody the change we want to see?
That's where the rubber meets the road.
Right.
Vanessa says we need to fully embrace
Okay.
the desired state of being, not just in our heads, but emotionally as well.
So it's not enough to just think about being confident or wealthy.
Right.
I have to actually feel those things.
Exactly. She encourages us to imagine
Okay.
ourselves already possessing the qualities we desire,
Okay.
to step into that version of ourselves, to feel what it would be like to already have those things.
I've heard this called visualization. Is that what she's talking about?
It's similar, but Vanessa emphasizes the importance of going beyond just the visual aspect. It's about engaging all of your senses. What would it feel like to be financially free?
Yeah.
What would you smell? What would you taste? What would you hear?
I love that.
Yeah.
It's about creating a full sensory experience, almost like a movie playing in your mind.
Right.
But how do we make sure it's not just a fantasy, like a form of escapism?
Yeah.
How do we bridge the gap between imagination and reality?
So Vanessa addresses that directly.
Okay.
She emphasizes the importance of aligning our actions with our new self-conception. It's about walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
So it's kind of like fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
but with a deeper level of intentionality.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
It's not about pretending to be someone you're not.
Right.
But rather embodying the qualities you desire.
Right.
Until they become a natural part of who you are.
I remember Vanessa saying something interesting about people who seem to naturally attract success and abundance.
Right.
She observed that they often don't question their worthiness.
That's a crucial point.
Yeah.
It all comes back to self-love and self-belief. When you truly believe in your own worthiness, you don't hesitate to go after what you want.
Right.
You don't sabotage yourself with doubt and fear.
Right.
You just go for it.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about those of us who struggle with self-doubt,
Right.
What if we've spent years
Yeah.
believing we're not good enough or smart enough or worthy enough?
Right.
How do we overcome those deeply ingrained beliefs?
So Vanessa has this really intriguing concept that addresses this directly.
Yeah.
She says that every state you have ever recognized, you have embodied.
Hold on. Break that down for me. I'm not sure I follow.
Okay, so think about it this way. Every emotion you've ever experienced, every state of being you've ever recognized, even for a fleeting moment, you've embodied it.
Okay, so if I've experienced joy, even for a brief moment, that means I have the capacity to experience more joy.
Exactly. Right. And the same goes for confidence, abundance, love, any other positive state of being. Those moments, no matter how brief, are proof that you have the potential to experience those states more fully.
That's a really empowering thought.
It is.
So it's not about trying to be someone we're not. It's about tapping into the potential that already exists within us.
That's the essence of Vanessa's teaching.
Okay.
She's not asking us to become something different.
Right.
She's asking us to become more of who we already are.
This is all starting to click for me.
Yeah.
You know, it's not about magically manifesting things out of thin air. It's about aligning our inner world with the outer reality we want to create.
It's a process of becoming, of evolving, of remembering who we truly are.
Vanessa also talks about the importance of removing our attention from lack.
Yes.
And focusing instead on the evidence of our desires.
Right.
It's about training our minds to see the abundance that's already present in our lives.
She often uses the analogy of a garden.
Okay.
If you want to grow beautiful flowers, you don't focus on the weeds.
Right.
You focus on nurturing the seeds, watering them, giving them sunlight.
Yeah.
In the same way, if you want to manifest abundance, you have to focus on the evidence of that abundance, no matter how small it may seem.
That makes perfect sense. But what about faith? Where does that fit into the equation?
Vanessa is a big believer in the power of faith.
Okay.
She even quotes Hebrews 11:1.
Yeah.
Now, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen.
So it's about believing in something even before you see tangible evidence.
Exactly. It's about trusting that what you desire is already on its way to you, even if you can't see it yet.
I think a lot of people struggle with that.
Yeah.
You know, it's easy to believe in something when you can see it.
Right.
But it's much harder to have faith in the unseen.
Vanessa emphasizes that faith is not about passive wishing.
Okay.
It's about active claiming.
Okay.
You're not begging for what you want.
Right.
You're stepping into the knowing that it's already yours.
That's a powerful distinction.
It is.
So it's about aligning our thoughts, our feelings, and actions with the reality we wish to create.
Precisely. Vanessa uses the analogy of a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Okay.
If you believe you're capable of achieving something, you act in ways that reflect that belief. And ultimately, you achieve the results you desire.
I can see how that ties back to her concept of awareness of being.
Exactly.
Our beliefs shape our actions, and our actions shape our reality.
Yeah.
It's a cycle.
Exactly. And she encourages us to become so wildly enmeshed in the belief of the things that you aspire to be.
Yeah. That it becomes our dominant reality.
It's about living as if our dreams have already come true, even if we haven't seen the full manifestation yet.
It's about embodying the feeling of having already achieved our goals. She reminds us that we are powerful creators.
Right.
And our awareness is the key to unlocking our full potential.
This is incredibly inspiring.
It is.
But I imagine some listeners might be thinking, okay, this sounds great in theory, but how do I actually apply this to my life?
That's a valid question.
Yeah.
And Vanessa offers some very practical guidance.
Okay.
She talks about the importance of revaluing ourselves, recognizing our inherent worth and power.
So it's about shifting our self-perception from one of limitation to one of limitless potential.
She says that if we don't see ourselves as valuable and powerful, others won't either.
Okay.
It all starts with our own self-concept.
It's about stepping into our power and radiating that confidence out into the world. She uses the example of people who seem to effortlessly attract success, love, and abundance.
Right.
She says that these individuals often possess these things because they don't question their deservingness.
Right.
They just assume they are worthy of good things.
So it's not about being arrogant or entitled,
Right.
but about having a deep-seated belief in our own inherent value.
Exactly. And Vanessa challenges us to cultivate that same level of self-belief.
Okay.
To see ourselves as worthy of all the good things life has to offer.
I love that. It's about claiming our birthright as creators of our own reality.
She reminds us that even if we haven't fully manifested our desires yet,
Right.
there's always evidence of our exceptional qualities and capabilities.
Maybe we're a great friend,
Right.
or a talented artist, or a dedicated worker.
Exactly.
By focusing on those existing strengths, we reinforce the belief that we're capable of achieving even greater things.
Exactly. It's about recognizing and celebrating our wins,
Right.
no matter how small they may seem.
Vanessa also emphasizes the importance of aligning our actions with our desired state of being.
If we want to be successful, we act as if we're already successful.
Right.
If we want to be confident, we embody confidence in our words and actions.
It's about living in alignment with our aspirations, even before we see the full manifestation of our desires.
It's about becoming the person we want to be one step at a time. And remember, every step we take, no matter how small, is proof that we are capable of creating the reality we desire.
This whole episode is like a masterclass in the power of our minds to shape our reality.
It is.
It's both exhilarating
and
a little daunting, wouldn't you say?
It's a profound reminder that we're not passive recipients of fate, but active participants in the unfolding of our lives.
No, I think we've given our listeners a lot to chew on.
I think so.
We've covered so much ground in this deep dive into Vanessa's teachings.
We have.
And I can't wait to unpack the final piece in part 3. So we're back, and we're wrapping up our look at Vanessa Sam and her teachings on manifestation, energetic frequencies, all that good stuff. We've covered a lot, from awareness of being to the conceiver and the conception. The power of faith. I'm really curious in this last part to see like what practical tips she gives us to actually apply this stuff,
So she emphasizes the importance of creating a supportive environment for ourselves. She talks about shutting out external negativity, especially when we're, trying to manifest our desires.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's hard to stay focused on your goals when you're, constantly surrounded by doubt and negativity.
Exactly. She uses the analogy of the widow shutting the door to her house in the parable we discussed earlier.
Right.
It's about creating a sacred space.
Okay.
Both physically and mentally, where we can kind of connect with our inner power and block out distractions or doubts.
So it's not about completely isolating ourselves from the world, but more like being selective about the influences we let in.
Exactly. It's about protecting our energy and being mindful of the company we keep.
Okay.
She points out that other people's energies can be contagious, Sometimes their doubts and fears can inadvertently drag us down.
That reminds me of that saying, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Exactly. So it's important to surround ourselves with people who uplift and inspire us.
Right.
People who believe in our dreams and support our journey.
What about solitude? I've heard that spending time alone can be really beneficial for personal growth and manifestation and things like that.
Vanessa agrees. She talks about the power of creating a space for solitude.
Where we can disconnect from the noise of the outside world and tune into our own inner guidance. It's in those moments of stillness that we can truly connect with our intuition and hear our own inner voice.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get so caught up in the busyness of life that I forget to just be still and listen to what my heart is telling me.
It's easy to get swept away by the external world. But creating space for solitude allows us to reconnect with our inner compass, that deep inner knowing that guides us toward our highest potential.
So we've talked about the importance of awareness, belief, creating a supportive environment. But what about action? What role does action play in all of this?
So Vanessa is a big believer in inspired action.
Okay.
She says that when we align our actions with our desires, we create a powerful momentum that propels us towards our goals.
But she also emphasizes that it's important to be patient.
Right.
And trust the timing of the universe.
So it's not about frantically chasing after our dreams, but rather taking consistent, aligned action.
Right.
And trusting that things will unfold in the right way and at the right time.
Exactly. Vanessa reminds us that lack of resources is what makes people resourceful.
Right.
She shares her own story of starting her business with limited funds,
Okay.
which forced her to be creative and innovative.
That's a great reminder that limitations can often be the catalyst for breakthroughs.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes when we're faced with challenges,
Right.
We discover strengths and resourcefulness we didn't even know we had.
Absolutely. And Vanessa challenges us to look back on our own lives and remember times when we overcame obstacles and achieved things that seemed impossible at the time.
Right.
You know, those experiences are proof of our inherent resilience and capacity for growth.
Yeah, it's about recognizing that we've already overcome so much and we have the strength to overcome any future challenges that might arise.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Vanessa's teachings, what are some key takeaways that listeners can apply to their own lives?
Yeah, great question.
First and foremost, it's about recognizing the power of our awareness. Our thoughts, beliefs, and feelings shape our reality.
It's not just about repeating affirmations.
Right.
It's about embodying the state of being we desire.
And it's about shifting our focus from lack to abundance, from what we don't have to what we already possess.
And shutting out external negativity.
Yes.
And creating that sacred space where we can connect with our inner power.
And it's about remembering our past triumphs and recognizing our inherent resilience and resourcefulness.
And trusting in the unseen.
Yes.
And having faith that our desires are already on their way to us.
It's about taking inspired action.
Aligning our behavior with our aspirations.
And ultimately, it's about realizing that we have the power to command life to work in our favor.
This whole deep dive has been incredibly insightful.
Yeah, it's given me a whole new perspective on manifestation. So if our awareness of being shapes our reality, what new conceptions will you choose to focus on and bring to life?
Yeah.
That's something to ponder as we wrap up this episode.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on the deep dive.